I just stood the starter up, nose it down, and I'm going to work on this torque converter bolt. These torque converter bolts are a super loose 15, a 9/16 or a 14 will not fit them. So they're a little sketchy. I broke them loose with a 15mm box end, a 21mm backing it up, and I used a 6-point wrench to break them loose so I don't round them off. I've been working it loose with a 12-point now. I would say probably one of them snap-on electric impact guns would get in there. If the starter's out of the way, might be able to get it up in there. But it is close, and it is sloppy. And I stick a screwdriver into this inspection hole and hold the flywheel while I'm pulling down on it so it doesn't take off. Nice. And there will be 3 torque converter bolts taken out. The third one, I'll take some yellow paint mark and mark the threads and flywheel so they match up when I put it back together. I recommend using gloves in case the wrench slips off so you don't get cut on the bell housing edge. It could happen. Be sure the crank sensor is unplugged and lock sensor on this side, and try not to break them off with a starter or anything while you're over here. And finally, I switched over to a gear wrench with the left hand and holding the flywheel with the right till it gets loose enough that I don't need to hold the flywheel anymore. It's nice. Three bolts and 1 paint mark. And a loose torque converter. I took a black plastic inspection cover off this side, take it off the other side around the oil filter, and unplug the knock sensor and the other wires over on this side, and this lower bell housing bolt. There should be 2 left in it. Go ahead and take the last bolt out of the bell housing on the passenger side. I just didn't want to have to come back over this side. And I went ahead and laid a piece of 2x4 on the stabilizer bar. The transmission bell housing ought to set on it pretty good when the motor pulls away. I give the torque converter a little push back into the bell housing so it'll help it get away from the crankshaft and not pull it out when I pull the motor up. It'll be another disaster waiting to happen. The driver's side inspection cover is removed, and the knock sensor is unplugged to the inner fender on the driver's side. Got 1 last bell housing bolt. I'll break it loose. And the last thing to take loose is the engine mount on the passenger side. Anybody with iDip memory, I may need a little help. Yep. Well, maybe not. I didn't know. Manifold bolts, one's broke off, gotta replace it. Lifter bucket, hold down 2 alternator bolts, 4 alternator support bracket bolts, and 1 short short one behind the power steering pump. Several coil pack hold down studs. One ground strap bolt. One steel stopper for the intake plenum, I guess. One coolant temperature sensor for valve pan cover bolts with rubber grommets. And what we got here? I'm going to lose some lifter bucket bolts. 11 valley cover bolts right there for the intake plenum. Couple bell housing bolts. 3 water pump bolts. 4 spark plugs. 1 EVAP solenoid. 3 more water pump bolts. 1 back block off with extra bolt for the front block off or crossover pipe. That sure is a bunch of them. Some more on the floor. 1 timing cover set of bolts. That's great. Fuel line safety lock. Alright, well, all the bell housing bolts are out. 3 engine mount bolts down there on the frame on this side. Got 3 more to do on this passenger side, and then put the front wheels back on this thing and hook up the engine puller to it. I'm probably going to use 2 bolt holes on the block and jumper a piece of metal or chain between them, and then hook a pulling chain between the 2 bolt holes on the diagonal on the front rear. If I can find them. Find a couple bolt holes. Offhand, this hood shock will have to be unlatched and hood propped up a little more to get that beast up out of there. And especially when the heads are back on it. And the valley cover shouldn't be trivial. Let's leave the intake off of it. You gotta leave it off to get the engine puller up under that. And I think these hood hinges have a stopper on them, so they'll have to be unbolted. I've got a chain hooked up from the back bolt on the air conditioner mounting bracket, and there's a threaded hole in the thick part of the block in the back. That's taking hands there. Be sure and get that mystery ground wire off of the block and the harness. Both knock sensors are unplugged on both sides. The crank sensor in the back's unplugged. Yeah, that should do it. All the bell housing bolts are out. All the torque converter bolts are out. Should be able to hook the puller up and lift it out of there. Let's do it now. All the engine mount bolts are out. And I'll move this bracket up in the front, and I'll be able to pull it up over that with any luck. I've hooked an engine puller up. And I just kind of put 2 chains on the front, and there was a boss on the driver's side corner that had a good inch aluminum around it, so I'm going to use it. Just bolted a metal bracket to the lower part of the. Just making sure the chain doesn't touch the deck anywhere or any of the ceiling surfaces and scratch it up. I've raised it up and down a couple of times, wouldn't let go. I got underneath, got a screwdriver behind the oil filter and between the engine and the bell housing, and was prying around with the motor lift up slightly. I've got the transmission setting on a jack slightly, and it's starting to pull apart, so I've got it moving. Now I'm going to take these bolts out of the hinges and this shock off for the hood, and prop the hood up a little higher so that this will come through there. Director's cut. I'm going to go ahead and I've propped the hood up just to make sure it don't come down on me. And I'm going to just lift this ring up partially and release it from the ball that's underneath of it. And get that down. I'll do before propping the hood up. I'm going to go ahead and take these hinge bolts, spring-loaded hinge bolts out on each side. Now, these hinges have a service position, but I just stuck a piece of 2x4 in there, and I just kind of stuck a little piece of metal on the other side as a backup. But it's pretty good. Alright, now that baby's ready to start moving forward, just gonna have to watch and make sure it doesn't get anything. Pull out power steering pump bracket out of the way maybe, and get it moving here and adjust the stuff. I took a bungee cord and put it on the air conditioner to kind of hold it back. Compressor stand against the frame rail and clip it on up top there. And the manifold's clear, nothing's touching the deck, so I don't want to scratch the deck up where the heads belong. And the motor's level at the front. Hopefully the front's going to come up just a little bit. My intention. Get that manifold off the mount on the way out. Got a bungee cord kind of holding it back. I had to wiggle the motor around some and get it, the dowel pins are stuck a little bit, so it's starting to come out now. And start pulling the motor forward as you're coming out.
Is it alright on that side?
Keep going. Pull it forward.
I need to pull it forward some more. Running into the back there.
Just keep going. Hold it. I wish I took that fucking crank bolt off. Go ahead and ease it forward some more. Hold it, hold it, hold it.
Oh, that side.
Looking good, people. Just start walking it forward as the oil pan clears the radiator support.
And the mount is forward to this side.
That's really nice. Yeah, it's looking good now. Get it cleaned up and put it on the engine stand here. I was just looking where I hooked it on the back, as long as it don't damage this oil jacket. See, that looks pretty good. I'm going ahead and drain the fluids before I put it on the stand. I probably should have done it a long time ago, but it doesn't really matter. Take the oil filter off and let it drain 15 or 20 minutes. I'll get it on the stand here in a minute. After I mark the flywheel. And I'm going to take a flywheel off of it. I'm going to go ahead and stick a rear main seal in it while it's out of there. Those are 15mm flywheel bolts. Get them out of there. Mouse over the video and hit the circle I to continue to part 2 of the video.